Petroleum engineering. Hi, my name is Alejandro Guzman and I'm doing this presentation for my Engineering 110 class. What type of systems do petroleum engineers design? The type of engineer I chose to write about are petroleum engineers. These specific engineers focus on methods to extract oil and gas straight from the earth. They have to work with geologists and specialists to understand where they can drill and what drilling methods would be the best. In order to do this, they have to examine the formation and properties of the rock containing the reservoir. These are just some of the main tasks that petroleum engineers do in order to extract the oil and gas. Another thing they can do is design the equipment and processes in order to get the maximum recovery of gas and oil. Industry of petroleum engineers. For the most part, large oil and gas companies hire these type of engineers. This includes hundreds of smaller independent oil exploration companies as well as research institutes and service companies. A lot of petroleum engineers end up working where oil and gas can be found. There are many petroleum engineers employed in Texas, Alaska, Louisiana, and California. As a petroleum engineer, they can also work on offshore sites as well as overseas in oil producing countries. Two big known companies that actually hire these type of engineers are Chevron and Shell. Environment of a petroleum engineer. The environment where they work includes companies where they produce oil and gas as well as equipping manufacturers. Depending on what kind of petroleum engineer you are, you can spend your days working on the oil fields outside, like this person here, or inside the office working on computer simulations and models. You can find these type petroleum engineers typically in office or at drilling and well sites. One example I can give is reservoir engineer spends most of their time in the office running simulations as opposed to a drilling engineer where they are on the site of the well working. One example would be like this picture where he's on the site where they have the well, and this is the environment he's in most of the time, as compared to a reservoir engineer who spends most of their time in the office, like running simulations or models. The specialties of a petroleum engineer. There are about four specialties that include drilling, completions, reservoir, and production. Some brief explanations on what they do are reservoir engineers focus on the characteristics of the reservoir and try to determine things like how much oil and gas can be extracted, as opposed to drilling engineers who focus on the design of the overall drilling plan and casing plan for each well. And as you can see, completion engineers take over after the well has been drilled and cased to determine the overall strategy to execute their plans. And once that is done, the production engineers take over the well after it has been phrased by the completion engineers. So these are like four of the different sub branches that people can focus on as a petroleum engineer. It's not just one thing, but there's multiple branches where, depending on where you're most suited as, you can be a reservoir engineer, drilling engineer, completion engineer, or a production engineer. The average salary of a petroleum engineer. Earnings for the engineer can vary depending on the specialty or industry that they go to. According to the U.S. Department of Labor Bureau of Labor Statistics, the median annual wage for petroleum engineers was $137,720 as of May 2021. This was the average salary of a petroleum engineer. And yeah, that was my presentation on petroleum engineer. I hope you guys enjoyed, and thank you. Bye.